Hello, my fellow gamers and horror film fans. I'm Mike C, and welcome back into the Chrono Cabin. This is the Weekend Watch and Play edition. That's right, everybody. It is the weekend, and this is where I love to talk to you about all the horror content I will be watching and all the video games I will be playing over the weekend. We will start with the horror content, and then we will move on to the gaming. I have started watching M. Night Shyamalan's Servant on Apple TV, and I am absolutely loving it. I am hooked. Now, I know I'm a little late to the party on this one. It's already 3 seasons in, but I haven't had Apple TV until now, and this has been on my list to watch. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't know anything about Servant. I didn't watch any of the trailers. I didn't do any reading about it. All I knew was it was a series by M. Night Shyamalan. Some people have said it's good, and that was about it. And I just decided to dive in, and boy, am I glad I did. And I'm glad I did it now when there's 3 seasons. So I'm already through the first season, and I'm going to continue watching it over the weekend. Now, I definitely won't give away any spoilers to you. In fact, I'm going to tell you very little about this, except for the things that I like, because you really have to dive into this, and the less you know, the better as far as the plot goes. So here's the synopsis. A Philadelphia couple is in mourning after an unspeakable tragedy creates a rift in their marriage and opens the door for a mysterious force to enter their home. And yes, this does take place in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, a place I'd like to visit at some point. I have never been. It's a very historical city, and I would like to go someday. Now, beyond that synopsis, I'm really not going to say much about the plot. So again, no spoilers here because I would not want to ruin it for you. This is one of those things where I literally started watching the first episode, and at the end of the first episode, I had this reaction. What? That was my reaction. I know it doesn't seem that exciting, but it really was. It was like, wow, what? You just have to see it. And I was so happy that there was an episode 2 ready to go because I went right into episode 2. In fact, in the first sitting, I watched 4 episodes. It's that good. And actually, these episodes aren't time consuming to get through. Each episode is only 30 minutes, so you can legitimately devote an hour a night to this and you'll get through 2 episodes a night, or just a half hour a night and get through an episode. They're not very long seasons, and I have to say, for me, watching this series was a lot like watching Archive 81 and Fairy of the Darkest Light. I've talked about both of those series before, but it's one of those page turners, or episode turners, if you will. It's one of those where you just want to keep watching each episode to figure out what is happening and what is going to happen. And this one, make no mistake, Servant, you are going to want to keep watching and keep figuring out what's going on. The pacing in this is great. It's really, really great because it leaves you a lot of mystery and you're just wondering what the hell is happening. And then they kind of get into backstory, and then certain things start making more sense. But the backstories are very, very interesting. This thing is really well written, and it's really, really well acted. You are going to see some familiar faces in this. The married couple is played by Lauren Ambrose and Toby Cobell. Now, if you ever watched The Sixth Sense, you'll know Lauren Ambrose. She played the character of Claire. She really plays a deep layered character in this. At first, you think her character is a little trivial, but she's got a lot of layers to her. It's kind of like an onion. You know, you keep peeling away and you get deeper and deeper. And she is fantastic in this. And also, Rupert Grint. Wow. Rupert Grint is an amazing actor. In fact, you forget that he's British because he completely loses his British accent. He takes on an American accent and he blows it out of the park. I mean, I know that seems kind of strange, but I'm always impressed when actors can do this. In fact, Gillian Anderson, when I was watching the X-Files, I got about halfway through the series of the X-Files before I saw Gillian Anderson in an interview on some late night show. And I was like surprised. I was completely blown away because she actually had a British accent. That's her native British accent. I never knew that. And I never knew that from watching the X-Files, and I didn't know much about her. I didn't even know she was British. And it just surprised me. And that's just how good of an actress Gillian Anderson is. And I know actors that are really great can pull off any accent, and it's very convincing. And Rupert is no exception. I mean, he is indeed my favorite character in this. I absolutely love the way he plays this character. He's kind of embittered, he's a little bit sour, and at times he just makes me laugh. I mean, there's a lot of points in this where I'm actually laughing out loud. I have to say, this is kind of one of those really strange series. I don't know if I could really put it in a horror category per se. It's just really fascinating to watch. The story is really great, the character development is really great, and I'm happy to see M. Night Shyamalan kind of back in this game again. Now, I've always been a big fan of M. Night Shyamalan. I've liked a lot of his movies. In fact, Signs is probably one of my favorite movies of his, along with The Sixth Sense. I liked Unbreakable a lot. Now, there's a lot of movies that he did recently that didn't go over so well. I haven't liked all of his movies, like Lady in the Water. I thought it was an interesting movie, but it just, I didn't get it. That's about all I can say. And I feel like he's kind of missed a little bit on some of his more recent projects. But I would say M. Night Shyamalan, he's back in full steam here. By the way, the chemistry between the character that Toby Cobell plays and Rupert Grint plays, it is magical. I laughed so many times at the interaction between these two throughout this series. I have been laughing. Just, it's great because they get in these absurd situations and they're both trying to reason their way out of it. And you just have to see it. But Rupert really grounds the scene back into reality when it starts going into the absurd. And it's really fun to see the interaction. And the way Rupert's character, I love the reactions that he has. It's a lot of fun. It's great. I mean, all through this, the acting is just superior. And also, let's not forget Nell Tiger Free. Odd name, Nell Tiger Free. But she's very good. She plays the mysterious nanny that shows up, and this is where things really get rolling. And really, starting from episode 1, it gets moving, and it just keeps you engaged. If you're a fan of M. Night Shyamalan, you just want to see a really good series, I'll say, whether you want to call it horror or not. I mean, I think there is a supernatural element to this. Haven't quite figured it out yet, and that's not a spoiler in any way. Just, you will really enjoy this. I guarantee you. So I really recommend it. If you haven't seen it, or if you don't have Apple TV and you want to pick up Apple TV as a trial, this would be something to watch. Again, you can get through this pretty fast. Then you might want to pick it up again when season 4 comes out. Now, again, there's currently 3 seasons right now, and the 4th season apparently is coming out in January of 2023. Again, I haven't had Apple TV until now, so this is actually one of the first things I'm watching on it, and there's a lot of great stuff on Apple TV, but this is a pleasant surprise for me. This is one of those where I started watching it, didn't know anything about it, and I'm finding it's a real gem. Now, let's get on to the gaming. I started playing Ghostwire Tokyo last week on my PS5, and I'm about maybe 3 hours into the game so far, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So again, I'm not going to give you any spoilers or anything. I'm just going to tell you what I like about it so far, and I'm going to continue playing that over the weekend. Now, this game has gotten some mixed reviews. If you go to Metacritic, you'll see the Metacritic score. It's sitting around 75, I think, when I last checked, but the user ratings are actually around 92. So again, I don't really pay too much attention to ratings. I just like to go into a game and just see if I like it myself, because gaming is very subjective. I really like the horror genre of games. I've talked about Resident Evil Village, what a fan I am of that game. But this is a very unique and interesting supernatural game mixed with action, and I really, really enjoy it. In fact, the narrative is really interesting. It's very mysterious. It reminds me a little bit of the narrative from Death Stranding. 2 very completely different games and 2 very completely different narratives, but it's the weirdness of the narrative, the weirdness of the story, and actually a lot of the characters and the story in this game come from Japanese folklore. I went and visited my good friend Dave in Japan a number of years ago, and I actually played a couple music shows with him over there, and it was a lot of fun. We had a couple gigs and we played around in various parts of Japan, and we toured around a lot. And I went to some very small towns, and I went to some very large towns. I saw Osaka, Hiroshima, and I ended up in Tokyo. And I gotta say, walking around Tokyo in Ghostwire Tokyo, it reminded me a lot of walking around Tokyo in Japan, like actually when I was there, minus all the supernatural stuff, of course. But yeah, the game looks fantastic. I mean, there's a couple different modes you can play. There's performance mode, and then there's graphical mode. I think I have that right. But I'm playing in the 30 frames per second mode. It looks great on my 4K TV. I wanted a little more detail in the environment, so I chose to play it in the 30 frames per second mode. And I think it works fine. Like, it feels really good. It feels sharp. The gameplay feels sharp, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Anyway, when I was over there in Japan, though, with my friend Dave, he was telling me about some of the folklore over there, and there's a lot. And one thing that we both noticed, Dave and I are both horror film fans, and in Japanese horror movies, water is a big theme. So I don't know if you ever saw The Ring. That was based on Ringu from Japan, but The Ring was a great remake of Ringu in Japan. And in The Ring, if you'll remember, water had a lot of play. Whenever that girl came through the TV, water would flood in. Water is an essence, and it does two things. It cleans negative energy, and it can collect negative energy. So if there's pools of standing water, it's usually associated with like a cesspool of negative energy. And that's why you want to be by a moving stream, because that moving stream keeps the water flowing, keeps the negative energy flowing, and it keeps the positive energy around. So actually in this game, you have certain areas where there's this buildup of water, and it's a buildup of negative energy. And you actually go in and you clear these, and you go in and you fight all of that negative energy out, and then you clear the area, and then the water moves away, and then you have positive energy. There's a lot of interesting things in this game. Also, there's the idea of cats. Cats, they live a really long life. They can become spiritual. They can talk to people. They grow two tails. It's very significant to certain dimensions of the folklore. And the game kind of actually gets into that. So a lot of this game is very, very steeped in a lot of that Japanese folklore. And some of it's really interesting, and it's fascinating. And it's very cool that they kind of intermingle all of this. In fact, all of the characters that you see in this game have something to do with a Japanese folklore. And some of the characters in this are pretty creepy. I have to say, the maskless guys with the umbrellas walking around, they're pretty creepy. You have these headless schoolgirls walking around. It really is a nice mix of action and supernatural and folklore in a modern city. And believe me, the city is really fantastic. It's almost like you're Spider-Man, because you can grapple and fly up to the tops of buildings. You can somewhat glide to the building tops, and it's really fun to do this, because if you're just on top of a skyscraper, just take a look around. The scenery is amazing, and you can see the cityscape. It's just really cool. The environment is amazing. I love the rain in the game. Just lots of things about it. So again, I'm only about 3 hours into this, but so far, that 3 hours has been really interesting and fun. I've really been enjoying it. The controls feel good. Everything about it, I'm enjoying it. So we'll see how I feel maybe 10 hours into the game. I feel like it's going to be a bit of a longer game, because there's various side missions. Again, there's been some mixed review on this. This is just my take on it. My first 3 hours has been a lot of fun, but we'll see as I keep going with it. Now, by the way, I finished Zero Dawn, which I think is it's a great story. It reminds me of a great narrative, like, let's say, Mass Effect. Mass Effect, I thought, was one of the most fantastic sci-fi stories I've seen in a game. The Mass Effect series, I should say. The entire series. Man, that whole series, the narrative throughout that, the writing was so good. I enjoyed it start to finish. I know some people didn't like the ending. I actually liked the ending a lot. And just the whole concept was so cool. But this is one of those games, I think, Zero Dawn. The writing was so good. If you haven't played Zero Dawn, I highly recommend you play it. I am going to play Forbidden West. In fact, in Zero Dawn, in some of the dialogue that you have with the people in the game, or the NPCs in the game, they mention the Forbidden West. It's interesting. They don't talk about it a lot, but they mention it. And I am looking forward to picking up Forbidden West. I just think I'm going to go ahead and play Ghostwire Tokyo. And by the time I finish it, I think Forbidden West will probably be on sale. I'll pick it up on sale and play it. But I am really interested to play Forbidden West now because I was very satisfied with the ending of Zero Dawn. I thought it was brilliantly written. The game was just an amazing game, and I can't wait to see what Forbidden West has to offer. I mean, I'm also still playing Pokemon Legends Arceus, playing Triangle Strategy. There's just so many games out right now, but it's a good thing. And it's a good thing because you can also wait on some of these new games until they go on sale, and then you can pick them up. So I'd say, win-win on everything. But it's nice to see all these games out now. Last year was a bit tough. The kind of games were coming out fewer and farther between. But this year, we definitely have a lot of games to play. All right, that wraps it up for this episode, everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. If you like my channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up or give it a thumbs down if you don't like it. But you can ring that bell for future notifications, and then you will get notified whenever I release new content, which I hope you do. Anyway, have a great weekend, everyone. As always, keep playing those video games and keep watching those horror movies. I will see you soon.